You know, it's quite something that an everyday thing like dark roast coffee has this really intricate process behind it.
Mm.
And for you, listening in, someone who probably really enjoys getting into the weeds, understanding the why, well, this deep dive into the second crack in coffee roasting, I think it's going to be pretty illuminating.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
The second crack, it's much more than just a sound.
right.
It's this really critical point, a turning point that tells us so much about how those dark roast flavors develop.
Okay.
So today, yeah, we're going to trace the beans journey, try to really demystify what the second crack is, why it matters,
Hmm.
look at the actual physical changes, talk about, how not to mess it up by going too
Yeah,
far.
the risks.
Exactly. And share some practical tips to help nail it. Think of it like learning the secret language of the roast for those deep, intense darks.
Okay, okay, I like that. So let's just zoom out for a moment first. We start with green beans, right?
Yeah.
And heat turns them into the roasted beans we know. Can you give us a quick flyby of the main stages, sort of leading us up to this second crack moment?
Sure thing. So the roasting process, it really unfolds in sequence. First up, you've got a drying phase. Got to get that moisture down.
Right.
After that, the browning phase really kicks in. That's where the precursors to all those lovely coffee aromas start forming.
Okay.
Then comes the first crack, big moment. That's mostly steam and other gases building up and, well, cracking the bean open.
Pop.
Exactly. And then, after a little bit of a lull, we hit the second crack. And that's our main focus today, especially if you want to understand those darker roast profiles.
The second crack, it still sounds pretty dramatic. So what exactly is going on there? What's the sound and what's causing it this time?
Yeah, and what's really interesting is how it's different from the first crack.
Okay.
The second crack, it usually kicks off around, say, 224 Celsius. That's about 435 Fahrenheit.
Mm.
It's another audible popping sound.
Another pop.
But this time, instead of being mostly steam-driven, this one's largely down to the pressure of carbon dioxide, CO2, building up inside the bean.
Ah,
The
yeah.
structure inside, it's already been weakened by everything that came
All
before,
right.
and it basically just fractures under this new pressure.
Mm.
So yeah, first crack is like a steam release valve. Second crack is more the bean's actual structure, the cellulose giving way.
That's a really clear distinction.
No.
So beyond just hearing it, what else should a roaster be looking out for? What are the visual signs that tell them, okay, second crack is starting?
Good question. So along with those pops, you'll definitely see the beans keep getting darker, visually darker.
Mm.
They also become much more brittle if you were to touch them. And a really key visual cue is oil appearing on the surface.
Oh, the shininess.
Exactly. Those oils start migrating out at this stage. And you will absolutely notice a change in the smoke coming off the roaster. It gets darker, more pungent.
Ah.
It's a strong signal you're properly into dark roast territory now.
Wow. Okay. So it's a whole sensory package deal, not just the sound. Why is this moment, the second crack, so vital for getting those, strong, bold flavors that dark roast fans love?
Well, if you think about flavor development, the second crack is really where those deeper, more intense notes start to properly form.
Okay.
That oil migration we mentioned, it's not just for looks. Those oils carry tons of flavor compounds that really define a dark roast.
I see.
It's also adding a lot to the strong aroma and that heavier body, that mouthfeel we associate with darks.
Right.
So for a roaster, getting a handle on this stage is absolutely crucial for controlling the final result. It's how they can consistently hit that specific darkness, that intensity, without, accidentally going too far.
You mentioned the internal structure changing. Can we dig into that a bit more? What's actually happening inside the bean during this second act?
Sure. So on that structural level, the cellulose matrix, the bean sort of scaffolding,
Mm-hmm.
it continues to break down. That makes it more fragile, which contributes to the cracking sounds.
Makes
The oil migration, like we said, that's a physical movement. Heat and internal pressure are literally pushing those flavorful lipids out to the surface.
Okay.
And at the same time, chemically, various organic compounds are undergoing further thermal degradation. They're breaking down and transforming, creating those deeper, sometimes even smoky flavor notes.
So a lot going on chemically, too.
Oh, yeah. It's a continuous transformation, really, right down to the molecular level.
Now, you hinted at this, but let's talk about the risks. We know pushing things too far isn't good. What are the specific downsides if you let the roast carry on too long after the second crack starts?
Yeah, this is where the real craft comes in. Second crack is key for darks, but
Mm.
overshooting it, that leads to problems.
Like what?
Well, The most obvious one is just burnt flavors.
Mm.
Really overpowering, masks everything good about the coffee's origin.
Ugh, yeah.
You also risk killing off pretty much all the acidity, which can just leave the coffee tasting flat, lifeless.
Ah.
And if you really go too far, you end up with this unpleasant, sharp bitterness, maybe an ashy taste, and a thin, kind of watery body. Not the rich cup you were hoping for at all.
Right. Definitely not ideal. So it's a real balancing act. For someone listening, maybe trying this at home, what are some solid tips? How can they get better at recognizing and, crucially, reacting to the second crack?
Okay, practical tips. First, a reliable thermometer is key. Pay super close attention to the bean temperature. That 224 Celsius, 435 Fahrenheit, that's a typical start point, but it can vary.
Good point. Bean variants.
Exactly. Second, really tune your ears. Listen carefully. The second crack often sounds different from the first. Maybe faster, a bit quieter, more like rapid, sharp snaps.
Okay, different character.
Yes. And, critically, be ready to stop the roast fairly quickly after it begins if you want a balanced dark roast. You can push a little longer, but be cautious. Small increments.
Experiment carefully.
Right. And finally, cooling. Make sure you can cool those beans down fast. That halts the roasting process right where you want it, locking in those flavors you worked hard to develop.
That's great advice. It really underscores that mix of like science and paying attention to your senses.
It really is both.
So just for total clarity, can you draw that line again? Dark roast versus light roast.
Yes.
Specifically using these cracks as the marker.
Absolutely. The second crack is pretty much the dividing line. Light roasts. They're stopped before the first crack is even done, sometimes during it.
Okay.
They keep more of the coffee's original character, higher acidity, lighter body. Dark roasts, however, are taken to the second crack or maybe just a little bit past it.
Gotcha.
And they're defined by those bolder, intense flavors, lower acidity, fuller body. And visually, like we said, dark roasts often get that oily sheen on the surface,
Yeah.
which is a direct result of hitting that second crack stage.
That visual cue, the oil, seems really helpful. Now, I bet some listeners might have a couple of quick questions popping into their heads. Like, can you even roast coffee without hearing the second crack at all?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Definitely. Anyone aiming for a light roast, or even many medium roasts, their goal is specifically to stop roasting before the second crack even thinks about starting.
Right.
That's how you hold on to those brighter, maybe more floral or fruity notes. The second crack really is the doorway into the dark roast realm.
Okay, doorway to the dark side.
Yeah.
And what if someone thinks they have gone too far? What are the immediate signs, the red flags, for over-roasted beans?
The smell is usually number one. Over-roasted beans just smell burnt. It's pretty distinct.
Okay, unmistakable.
Visually, they'll look extremely dark, maybe unevenly so, sometimes almost charred in places.
Mm-hmm.
And then the taste, sadly, will just be dominated by bitterness, maybe an ashy charcoal-like flavor. It masks everything else.
Got it. Burnt, charred, bitter, ashy. Not good. Okay, last quick question. For someone wanting to practice, to get better at actually identifying that second crack sound and timing, what's your best advice?
Best way. Honestly, just roast small batches frequently and pay intense attention with all your senses.
Small batches, focus.
Exactly. Listen for the pops changing, smell the smoke evolving, watch the color deepen and the oils appear. Keep notes, time, temperature, sound, smells.
Log everything.
Yes. With that focused attention and repetition, you'll definitely start to build a much better instinct, a better feel and ear for hitting that crucial moment just right.
That makes a lot of sense. This has been incredibly insightful, really getting into the core of dark roast coffee. So just to recap, the second crack is this huge moment where the bean structure changes, oils come out, and those intense dark flavors develop. But crucially, it needs careful watching to avoid tipping over into burnt territory.
That's it, exactly. Mastering the second crack, or at least understanding and controlling it, it's a fundamental skill in roasting. It's all about that interplay of heat and time, used skillfully to unlock the bean's full potential for those bold flavors so many of us enjoy.
So next time you have a coffee, especially if it's a dark one, maybe take a second to think about that subtle event inside the roaster, the second crack.
Yeah.
It really does show this intricate dance between heat, time, and how flavor develops, and something we often take for granted. Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other small details, these seemingly minor events in our daily lives, actually hold the key to a much deeper appreciation or understanding of the world?